Hey sportswear watchers and midsole-aholics, Ed Tapering Bud here. Today I'm going to pit two shoes up against each other in a battle to the end. Puma's plucky Deviate Nitro Elite versus the Nike VAPORFLY Next% 2. A no holds barred encounter, let's begin. Thanks for joining me today on the channel, it's much appreciated as always. If you have been enjoying the content of late, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications when we roll out those new videos for you. And it really does help the channel oh so much if you give this video a thumbs up like. Dankeschön. So I picked up both of these shoes with my own earth credits, no freebies here. The Puma is in a size 10.5 UK and the Next% in a UK 11.5, so do bear that in mind guys. I'm pretty sure I couldn't get into a 10.5 in the Next% 2, I just don't think it would work out. Not enough wiggle room. I did look up the standard weight in the measured sizes. You got about 190 grams for the Deviate Nitro Elite and it's about 187 grams for the VAPORFLY Next% 2. So there's barely anything in it there guys in terms of weight. Slightly higher midsole stack in the Next% 2. Round about 39mm in the heel, only 36mm in the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite, and they both have an 8mm drop, if that's your bag. We'll start with the upper first. I've got to be honest here guys, the upper mesh on the Puma shoe does take some beating. It's super light stuff here guys, it barely feels like anything on foot. If anything, it's actually a little bit closer to the original Vaporweave in the Next%. Very flexible and extremely breathable, and fitting like a race shoe should be. I found that the reduced heel clip there of nothing really in the rear of the shoe provided me with no problems at all. I'd say the Next% 2 up is actually quite present when you compare it up against the Puma shoe. There's a really quite structured heel section here in the Next% 2, so they couldn't be more different from that aspect. A very different on-foot experience really. The Puma really wraps around the foot. This one is kind of like a cage, I suppose. A very flexible toe box though, in fairness, and the midsole flex here is quite minimal in both of the shoes due to those carbon plates that have been implemented within the midsole. I found this quite a bit more toe box height on my pair of the Next% 2. I think I could probably get away with going down to a UK 11 in these. The UK 11 in the original version of the Next% was restrictive, that's all I'm going to say. It didn't feel comfortable. I had to wear a really thin sock to get away with those, and over the course of perhaps a marathon or something, I'm not sure that that would have been a very enjoyable experience. But I think in these I could probably shift down to an 11 and get away with it due to that extra height. The only real issue that I've discovered so far with the Puma is that tongue slide, and that isn't so much of an issue if you just wear a slightly longer sock. What happened before was the top of the tongue here just started rubbing on my foot, but you could easily avoid that. The Nike, on the other hand, did benefit from a lace swap. I have tested out the original laces again and they just don't really work that well for me. The perforated laces aren't as much of a triumph in the lock and consistency department as they were in the Alphafly. As such, I feel that the Puma here is the winner in terms of upper. It certainly would be my choice between the two shoes at present. Midsole, midsole, midsole now. Midsole wise, it's very clear that the Next% 2 does have a little bit extra foam there in the heel. All round it just feels like you're up a little bit higher off the ground. I mean, that might make all the difference for you, but I think over the half marathon distance, not really going to make all that much difference. I think for most intermediate runners, which is probably where I'd put myself really, the main thing that separates these two models is the underfoot feel. And the ZoomX here in the Nike and the Nitro Elite foam here in the Puma are very similar, it has to be said. There's a hollow squash to the almost sponge-like ZoomX foam in the VAPORFLY Next% 2 and a slightly denser give in the Puma shoe. I find the Deviate Nitro Elite is far less aggressive of the two shoes and perhaps a little more forgiving as well. The Next% 2 almost demands that you operate at top speed. It accepts nothing less from you. I can see people being put off by the squash and the very narrow arch in this shoe compared to the more traditional sort of last that's been used here in the Puma shoe. It's nowhere near as present, this one, in the arch area or instep. Some people comment that you can really feel your foot hanging over the arch section in this shoe, and it really does put them off and they just send them back. It's just a little bit more width to the Puma shoe and I think that could be quite attractive for some people. A much more stable Puma offering handles cornering much better. It's a lot more stable underfoot, and I think it's the more versatile of the two shoes in today's comparison. But I think as race options go, if you've got the Next% 2 in your arsenal, I think you're probably going to edge towards that one, in terms of the midsole at least. Is it worth going with anything else? I've run some faster miles in both of these shoes now, at and beyond my half marathon goal pace, and I've got to be honest, both are very impressive. They're both forgiving, they're both super light. But I think if push comes to shove, then the Next Percent 2 has the slight edge. Looking back at all my training in terms of perceived effort, it's always a little less in that shoe to go a little bit faster. Is it maybe a placebo effect because you're wearing the shoe and you think, yeah, this is easy? Is it in the mind? Probably. Definitely. Maybe. I think it's hard to say, guys, but in terms of the forgiving and propulsive stakes, I think the Next Percent 2 has it by a nose. Outsole now. Outsole wise, the Puma is top over the Next Percent 2. Easy. In all conditions, it's super grippy. Provides superb traction, and I can't help but feel that it's a significant upgrade over the foam rubber that you get in the mid to forefoot section of the Next Percent 2. The rubber here has seemed tough enough to live up to my expectations thus far, and I think the versatility of the outsole patterns and rubber here in the PUMA DEVIATE Nitro Elite does just have a little edge over that channeled setup here in the Next Percent 2. I've got to be honest, I was surprised to see Nike stick with this outsole design in the second iteration of the shoe. It's just another one of those foam rubbers that does okay, seems to last quite well. It's serviceable in terms of wet conditions, but it does seem to allow rocks and sharp debris to embed into the foam and even go through the Zoom X foam to the plate. Countless times a big thorn or an acorn fragment has got embedded in there and I've had to pull it out with some tweezers or some pliers actually at one point. And I'm conscious that once that's happened, water and all sorts of stuff can get into the foam. I don't think it's going to do it much good. I think for me really an upgrade's needed in terms of the rubber strength here that they use in the Next Percent line. Maybe we'll see that in the next iteration of the shoe in 2022. It's a win for the Deviate Nitro Elite in terms of outsole. Value now. I think value wise you can't get away from the fact that this is 56 earth credits cheaper than the Next Percent 2. But the Puma really is a contender up there with the big boys. A better upper and outsole. I'm sure they'll be working on it to improve the midsole feel as well in the next iteration. I think people are going to be happy to hear this from me because over the course of time the Next Percent's just got more expensive. There's more and more versions of it out there. They starved us all for a little while, but there's loads of them now. You can buy them in all sorts of different colours. Still has durability issues in the outsole as well, as I talked about in the last section of the video. I think a few people have found issue with the fit of the Next Percent 2 as well. It's just a little too roomy for them. Suddenly it just seems like a much bigger last has been used. If you go up like half a size, for example, it's quite roomy and it just feels odd down towards the very first few eyelets on the shoe. Only that tiny little issue in the upper here with that tongue sliding around, and I'm pretty sure I could sort that out with my needle and thread. Is that 3 or 4 millimeters of extra foam worth it in the Next Percent 2? Is it worth 56 earth credits? I think if you want the Next Percent 2 and you want to save yourself a few bucks, then it's worth searching out 3 of the colorways that are a little bit cheaper. The Aurora Green, the Dark Sulfur, or the Glacier Blue versions of the Next Percent 2 being only 209 earth credits compared to 225 earth credits, offer a £16 saving. So I think it's worth doing that, and all the earth credits add up, guys. As such, I think with some dedicated training, some blood, sweat and tears, I feel that the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite is just as good as the Next Percent for most runners. I say most of us non-elite runners, we're just trying to get the best out of ourselves. Some of us haven't got time to put in 20-mile long runs here, there and everywhere, run up mountains, and thus we just don't have time to do it. We've got families, we've got jobs, we've got responsibilities. Is spending another 56 quid really worth it? I'm not sure. I think this shoe could probably allow us to get the best out of ourselves in our running exploits. So a win for the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite on value. I think the Next Percent midsole still got a bit of an edge over this one, but as an all-round shoe and the price of it, it's hard to beat this really, guys. What are your views on this topic at home? Let me know in the comments below. I think I'm lighting the blue touch paper on this one a little bit, but that's how I feel. You know, I always give my honest opinions. A quick musical interlude for you. I did notice that one of my favourite artists, Bernard Butler, is doing some solo gigs in December. I think most of the tickets are already gone. I think he's playing in Worthing and somewhere else sort of down that neck of the woods. Certainly worth checking out if you can get a ticket. It got me thinking about some of my favourite Bernard Butler tunes, kind of hoping that he might unveil a new album of some of his own work. That would be awesome. Some of my favourite songs that he's ever produced were with David McAlmont. Bernard Butler's guitar and McAlmont's voice just seem to work so well together. Some wonderful varied tracks, some R&B, almost dance-inspired tunes, to some beautiful acoustic music as well. If you can find it, check out their track Although. It features one of the most beautiful guitar solos I've ever heard. Just this wonderful, dry, sounds like finger-picked solo. It's just really pure, such a mellow vibe. It has a wonderful vocal performance from David McAlmont as well. Another track is Tonight. That is wonderful too. I believe there's some sounds of somebody having an argument or something at the end of the track. I think there was some sort of fire started somewhere and somebody was telling the other person to put the fire out. Again, that's got some wonderful guitar parts in there. You can almost feel the spring reverb on some of the guitar sections there. Wonderful tones, great drum sounds as well on the entire album. I think one of the unsung heroes of British pop music, Bernard Butler. Go and check it out. Certainly inspired me to pick up the guitar. When I first saw him playing, I thought, I want to do that. That guy's awesome. I want to make some great sounds like that. Thanks for watching through to the very end of today's video, guys. Always appreciated. Remember to hit the subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications when we launch the new videos for you. And help the channel out a huge amount by giving this video a thumbs up like and sharing it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you.